The reason rest isn't restoring you isn't because you need more of it. It's because your nervous system has forgotten how to use it properly. If you give me a couple of minutes, I'm going to explain why every rest-based solution you've tried so far has failed. And it's not that you're doing it wrong. It's because the mechanism that you need isn't rest. I'm going to show you what the actual mechanism is and why it will change everything about how you approach your recovery from this point forward. Now, I have a written doctrine document that lays out the full operating principles behind all of this, behind everything that we do in Project Tempest, the worldview, the rules, the framework that governs everything that I build for women like you. It's public, there's no gate, you don't need to put your email in, nothing like that. If you drop the word doctrine in the comments, I'll send you the link and you can read it directly. Or I can even send you the podcast link and you can listen to it, whichever works for you. Now, if you don't know already, my name is Celeste. I am the founder and creator of Project Tempest, where we help build capacity infrastructure for high-performing women. We give you everything you need to stay in the fire, avoid the fade, and keep the results coming without sacrificing your own capacity. Every video that I put out is designed to be useful to you. I want to try and give you something useful that you can use to help with your own capacity, with your own high performance. So at this stage, I can guarantee that you've tried to rest. Like real rest, not just an early night, but some form of deliberate, extended, intentional rest. Maybe you've taken a full weekend off. Maybe you've been on holiday. You've started to say no to things and created more space. You've set boundaries. And you come back from it all feeling the same as when you left, sometimes worse, because the rest created space for everything that you'd been outrunning to catch up with you. And it doesn't create restoration. It creates a bigger problem. So you conclude, reasonably, that rest just doesn't work for you. And you're not wrong about that conclusion. You're right about the observation that it doesn't work. It's the same thing I see over and over again with everybody that comes to me. They try resting and they just conclude it doesn't work. Rest isn't for me. I've tried it, didn't work, felt worse. But what you can't see when you're inside the fade is the reason why. So what we need to do is reframe that perspective and show you why rest isn't working and what happens when you do something slightly different, and what that can actually do for you when you rest in the right way. So what most people do is they oscillate. They end up exhausted. That's the nature of the high-performing woman who's in the fire. She's intense. At some point, the exhaustion is going to become undeniable, and you will be forced to rest. You reduce your output. You create space. You try to stop. You do the weekends, holidays, all the stuff we've just talked about. But when that fails you, and you conclude that just pushing through, you end up returning to the same output and you just keep trying. The cycle runs. Effort, effort, effort until you become depleted. You attempt the rest, doesn't work. You're guilted about the rest. You wonder why it doesn't work, so you just go back to effort. And each cycle runs slightly deeper than the last one. The fade advances gradually. You mistake high functioning for evidence that your system's actually holding, when really it's not. It's just compensating. And compensation is not the same as capacity. High-performing women get those two things confused. They think because they can still produce and perform that everything's okay, and it's not. But the problem with rest is people treat it as passive, and it's not. Real restoration requires the nervous system to actively shift state from sympathetic to parasympathetic. When the system is chronically dysregulated and when you're compensating, that shift can't happen. The off switch is essentially stuck. So you can keep moving and your nervous system will keep running and you can pretend that things are working, but it starts to show up in the exhaustion, in the system that never actually goes into genuine recovery mode, even when you attempt to rest. You try more rest, but it doesn't fix the dysregulated nervous system. It just gives the dysregulated nervous system more time to run in the wrong gear and then sends you in a mental spiral because you feel like it should be working. So when we realise that rest can be passive or active, and we learn to distinguish between the two, that's when we can start to actually make progress with this. This is when it worked for me, when I realised that passive rest is nowhere near as useful as active rest, active recovery. So here's my capacity first frame. 3 principles that actually replace the rest more model with something that actually works for a nervous system like yours or like mine. So frame 1, understanding that calm is a result of preparation, it's not effort. People don't try to be calm, they prepare for it. Being composed and having the ability to rest, to regulate, to restore is a result of systematic nervous system training. It's not willpower. Women who can rest effectively have nervous systems that have been trained to shift that state. So it's not a personality trait, it's not a natural talent for relaxation. It's a capacity that was built through deliberate infrastructure. The same way that you build your physical fitness, the same way that any other operational capacity or skill is built. You can't access rest, not because you're bad at resting, but because you don't have the infrastructure for rest yet. You've not built it yet. So it's a system problem, which means it will have a system-based solution. Frame 2, we need to separate the concept of rest from the practice of restoration. Rest, in the way that most people understand it, means stopping, like I said, passive resting, passive recovery, doing less, creating space. True restoration and recovery is something different. Restoration is a specific physiological process that requires the nervous system to receive safety signals that are strong enough to override your survival state. That signal doesn't come from just stopping alone. It comes from specific inputs, breath patterns, sensory environments, transition protocols, regulation practices, all things that are designed to communicate safety to a system that's been running on high alert. The Project Tempest doctrine distinguishes this precisely. It talks about recovery as infrastructure, not as a reward. You don't build it by doing less, you build it by doing the right things in the right sequence. It's necessary. Frame 3, build the recovery infrastructure before the next pressure cycle arrives. So this is a principle that will change everything. Preparation precedes pressure. And you'll also often hear me say preparation precedes performance, because the two are one and the same. So if you're trying to recover in real time under consistent ongoing load without any infrastructure, you're going to erode, you're going to end up in the fade. It's the equivalent of trying to build a road while traffic is driving on it. Like, you ain't getting nowhere. The correct sequence is to build the infrastructure first, the regulation practices, the transition protocols, the recovery architecture, before the next wave of big pressure arrives. Not during, not after, before. Preparation. We need preparation before pressure. If we have preparation before pressure, then we're going to perform better. Women who have built this type of infrastructure, they don't recover faster because they are stronger or better in any way, more skilled. They recover faster because the system was ready. They had preparation, not willpower. When you stop trying to rest more and you start building infrastructure, you get these results and you feel confident in your ability to deal with whatever comes at you because you've got this stuff in place. This is when things changed for me, when I started building all of this into my daily life. Rather than just dealing with things when you need an intervention, you deal with it beforehand. It makes a huge difference. This capacity first reframe works because it stops asking the wrong questions. It stops asking, how do I rest more? How do I find the time to rest more? Instead, it asks, what does my nervous system need in order to access true restoration and recovery? Those questions have different answers and they produce different outcomes. When you understand that rest is a capacity that has to be built, not a state you can force yourself into, then you stop failing at rest and you start building the infrastructure that makes rest actually work. But the doctrine lays all of this out in full. It's not like a program, it's a worldview, it's an operating system, it's principles behind everything that we build here. And when you read it, you'll either recognise yourself in it or you won't. And if you do, you'll feel some relief at that. You'll see how nice it is to actually understand the frameworks and the concept and have someone name it for you. Capacity precedes performance. Calm is the result of preparation, not effort. And recovery is infrastructure, not reward. Like, these aren't new ideas, but they're useful ideas.